Welcome to today's episode where we're going to be talking about the coronavirus or the COVID-19 virus, what you can do to help yourself in this situation that we're in. If there's no cure, there's no treatment, and these treatments are only symptomatic, you're relying on making your body as healthy as it can so that it's got the best chance to fight the virus. And that's how Chinese medicine works. We don't give herbs symptomatically to alleviate symptoms, let's say. We give herbs to make your body stronger, to make your body function as best as it can. And that's the true nature of Chinese herbal medicine. And that's what I do in my practice. And many doctors around this time weren't committed to studying medicine. They were more in it for the glory and for fame and fortune, to make a name for themselves. And then when a pestilence issue struck, like in this time, this Shanghai, this cold damaged disease, then these doctors weren't prepared for it, and they're kind of running around looking for whatever medicine they could get their hands on and scared for their own selves and anxious. And so why I'm saying this is because this anxiousness isn't something new. This anxiousness isn't something that we're just seeing in our time. And yes, it's worse, I think. Well, hard to say. I wasn't living in the Han Dynasty. I don't know what it was like then. But I feel like it might be worse because we have such prevalence of social media, and people also we have over-information now, and we don't know where to go to get reputable and reliable information. I'm very hesitant putting videos out like this. I'm not here for clicks and swipes and like lucky stars and all that. I'm just here to help people with the knowledge that I have, and I'll only talk to the knowledge that I'm not going to make things up just to get a click on a video. So the purpose of this video is to help people to understand, hey, it's okay to be anxious. It's normal. What can we do about it? And it's all there in almost black and white, but there's no sensationalism. There's no weird person on the news kind of pushing forward their agenda. And that in itself, especially if you are the kind of person who gets into a frenzy from things or feels emotionally driven, sometimes you might find it hard to separate the emotions of news reports or articles. Just go to the WHO website to find out the information. So what can we do in this situation? Well, you can be informed with the direct information. The most direct you're going to get is the World Health Organization. And that's where a lot of these news articles are getting their information from. Okay, who cares if a celebrity got the COVID-19 virus? Is that going to affect you directly? Probably not right now. And if that makes you worried and anxious, don't listen to it. Don't worry about it. Just move on. Because mindfulness can be very powerful in this situation, because you can disrupt the pattern of thinking where you just in a rut, and then you stop. You do a little mindfulness practice. It brings you back into the present moment. It stops you from. It can actually lower your heart rate, lower your blood pressure, and stop you from being so panicked or so in a frenzy. Hi, I'm Marie Hopkinson, Chinese medicine practitioner. Welcome to today's episode where we're going to be talking about the coronavirus or the COVID-19 virus, what you can do to help yourself in this situation that we're in. So have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, whatever you drink, enjoy yourself. Because it's time to relax, and I think that's the first thing I want to say. There's really good information out there, but it's hard to get that good information for some people. This is not a video to tell you what the coronavirus is or, the standard stuff, because you can get that information very easily. If you don't know how to get it, go to the World Health Organization, WHO.int, and they put out the most up-to-date, the most relevant information. And at the moment, they're doing a daily update that you can get your hands on. It's very easy to find that information and to work out how that applies to you. So if you're in a particular group of people that are at a higher risk, they will be telling you what you should do, what you should be doing now, and how you should be responding, and to think about things to protect yourself. Now, something that's just recently happened is the World Health Organization has declared a global pandemic. And what that means is that we should be on high alert, but you don't need to be anxious or unnecessarily worried. So I want to talk about that a little bit in this video. And I also want to talk about what you can do for yourself. Because, okay, there's no cure. There's no vaccine. That's true. But there's lots of things that you can do for yourself to improve your health in a Chinese medicine way. And viruses, pandemics, even epidemiological issues is no stranger to Chinese medicine. It's nothing new for Chinese herbal medicine, like acupuncture, Chinese herbs. There's been situations throughout history where it's been documented through old texts in Chinese medicine how these things were encountered by practitioners, and the response isn't really very different to what we've got now. You just didn't have toilet paper for people to go and hoard and to panic buy. But in those times, like there's documented times in the Han Dynasty where there was a pandemic situation, let's say. We don't know whether they would have used that terminology exactly, but the textbook that guides most of my practice is called the Shang Han Lun, right? And that was written by a guy called Zhang Zhongjing, and that was written in the Han Dynasty of Chinese culture uses dynasties to record time periods. And around that time, like before Zhang Zhongjing wrote that text, there was a great amount of people dying from flu-like illnesses. And there was panic in people's mindsets, because you see that when he writes the preface. Now, when you see these older texts, there's a lot of stuff that has to be taken into consideration in context. Like, firstly, this was a scroll type of writing. They were carving this stuff into scrolls. They didn't have the ability to print things like we have printing machines now. So they didn't have the ability to just write. Like now we can write willy-nilly. We can write lots of information very quickly. We can type it. We can write it with our hands. Back then, they didn't have the ability to record information that quickly. So when they did record something, it was much, much, much more meaningful, because one sentence could have, interpretations of like a much wider kind of variety of things. And so when you read this preface, which is the reason why Zhang Zhongjing wrote the Shang Han Lun, why he recorded it, and he's the first person to record such a lengthy, what we would now consider like a clinical manual of how to treat different presentations of flu-like viruses and flu-like symptoms and whatever, however you want to talk about it now, how they were presenting back then. And he's saying, well, this is why I'm writing this book, because large chunks of people were dying. So I'm not going to go on about this too much, but in the preface of the Shang Han Lun, I'm going to read you this line, which is in line 4. He says, this is Zhang Zhongjing saying this is a translation. He says, my ancestral clan has always been numerous, with more than 200 members in the past. But since the first year of Jianan, that is 196 CE, in less than 10 years, the proportion of those who perished has been 2 out of 3, with cold damage claiming 7 out of 10 of these. And that was the illnesses of cold and flus was classed as cold damage, right? So he goes on and says, deeply affected by this ruinous loss in my past and the failure to rescue them from damage and premature death, I have diligently sought out the ancient instructions and collected a great number of methods far and wide. I have chosen the Su Wen, the Ling Shu, the Nanjing, the Yin Yang Da Lun, the Tai Yu Yao Lu, and the Ping Mai Bian Zhang to compose the Shanghan Zabing Lun in 16 scrolls. So this is why he's writing this text, right? There's lots of other reasons why he's writing it as well. He also says before this that he's kind of upset, I think you would say, that many doctors around this time weren't committed to studying medicine. They were more in it for the glory and for fame and fortune, to make a name for themselves. And then when a pestilence issue struck, like in this time, this Shanghan, this cold damage disease, then these doctors weren't prepared for it, and they're kind of running around looking for whatever medicine they could get their hands on, and scared for their own selves and anxious. And so why I'm saying this is because this anxiousness isn't something new. This anxiousness isn't something that we're just seeing in our time. And yes, it's worse, I think. Well, hard to say. I wasn't living in the Han Dynasty. I don't know what it was like then. But I feel like it might be worse because we have such prevalence of social media, and people also we have over-information now, and we don't know where to go to get reputable and reliable information. I'm very hesitant putting videos out like this. I'm not here for clicks and swipes and like lucky stars and all that. I'm just here to help people with the knowledge that I have, and I'll only talk to the knowledge that I'm not going to make things up just to get a click on a video, or I'm not going to just put videos out there for the sake of it. I want to put content out that I'm comfortable talking about, that I know what I'm talking about, and when I don't, I'm happy to say, hey, I'm not the expert on that topic. So the purpose of this video is to help people to understand, hey, it's okay to be anxious, it's normal, what can we do about it? It's okay to be worried. In Australia, and I'm sure this has happened in other countries, I've seen in the US, people stockpiling stuff that they probably don't need. You will not need that much toilet paper. There's been 2 social media videos going around now with fights in shopping centres, people fighting over toilet rolls. Yes, fighting over toilet rolls. And we haven't even had many cases of the virus here yet. This is just people being told, hey, put some stuff away at home by the government, saying it would be good if you had a couple of weeks of supply of stuff at home so that if you were to get sick, you wouldn't have to go to the shop. That's what they've said, and then this is what's happened.
I just want 1 pack. No, not 1 pack.
And people are going just crazy mental, needing to buy things. Now, why people do that is, one, because we want to do something. Inherently, human beings, we want to survive, and we think, well, this is something I can do. I do have the money to buy enough toilet paper to fill my whole house up with it. I will do that if I need to. That's maybe the mentality people are doing, and they think, well, this is something I can buy and something I can store. It is a time of high anxiety for people, and I just want to acknowledge that and say, hey, it's okay. If you're feeling anxious and you're feeling worried and you're feeling concerned, that's normal. It's part of it. It's part of what we're going through. But it's also because as a society, we haven't had to face much difficulty in our lives. I mean, like my nana, who's just turned 100, has had a lot more difficulty in the first half of her life than she had to face in the last half of her life. I've only been around in that last half. It's been an easy ride, like for me. I'm a Gen Xer. Even a lot of baby boomers were born after the war time, and that was like their parents had a hard time of it, but they didn't have to really have that much of a hard time of it. So part of it is because we're just not prepared as a society, because we've had an easy road of things, and like that's nice, that's great. And I don't wish hard times on people just for the sake of it. And like you might have had a hard time individually, you might have gone through terrible stuff in your life. I'm not saying people are immune to that. Like, you know, you can have illness, you can have death, you can have uncertainty, you can have bills to pay and difficulties and things like that. But in general, we haven't had to face an issue. The last time I can think of an issue like this was the year 2000, where people were worried that the internet would shut things down, and the internet would shut. Yeah, well, the click over of the 2000 thing would mean that, okay, the shop doors might not close. And I know friends and family that stocked up on water on the night before, but it was kind of all building to one particular point, and then it was over. And when it was over, people had breathed a sigh of relief, saying, wow, I can still get into my bank account. Wow, I've stocked up on all these cans of baked beans, but I'll just eat them for the next couple of months. And so that's the only thing I can remember in my lifetime like this. This is nothing like that, but in a situation where people are faced possibly not having food, not having access to the things that they'd like to have access, and also things that they need to have access to. The next thing I want to show you is this World Health Organization website. So you go to www.int, www.who.int, and on their page, let's see if we can go back this report. On this website, you'll see the coronavirus. Every day there's a COVID-19 coronavirus situation report, and every day they're putting one up there now. And so you can see what's the latest information. It's all there in almost black and white, but there's no sensationalism. There's no weird person on the news kind of pushing forward their agenda. And that in itself, especially if you are the kind of person who gets into a frenzy from things or feels emotionally driven, sometimes you might find it hard to separate the emotions of news reports or articles. Just go to the WHO website to find out the information. So I've written a few notes today because I don't want to get too off track, and I don't usually do these videos with any notes. It's just all stuff from my head. So yeah, look, it is a time of anxiety, and I want to acknowledge that's normal and that's okay. And also that there's also a lot of mistrust in information in our day and age. I mean, you can be mistrustful of information that firstly came out of China about the virus, about the origins of it. We don't really know. We don't really know exactly. No one can say exactly where this came from and how it came about. We can only surmise from the information we know so far. We don't have patient zero. We don't know who that initial infectant person was. But what we can do is be informed without being fear-mongered, I think is probably the thing I would say. Try to stay away from things that would fear-monger you. Now, different things fear-monger different people. Some people can cope with the barrage of media. Personally, I don't watch the news. I don't have a television in my house that I can just turn on and watch shows. I don't subscribe to Netflix and these kinds of streaming shows. So you need to be aware what makes you, upset or anxious, or what could make that worse for you. So what can we do in this situation? Well, you can be informed with the direct information. The most direct you're going to get is the World Health Organization, and that's where a lot of these news articles are getting their information from. Okay, who cares if a celebrity got the COVID-19 virus? Is that going to affect you directly? Probably not right now. And if that makes you worried and anxious, don't listen to it. Don't worry about it. Just move on. If you're getting upset by scrolling through lots of social media stuff, then just stop doing that. Like, try to stay away from it. Or limit the amount of groups. One thing that's really great is, lots of families do this, we have a little family WhatsApp group. So we can share our videos and our fun stuff and our photos with our family, or just the people that you might have, 10 friends, and you might have a private group that you just share that stuff to. And on WhatsApp, you don't have to go through Facebook to get it and be accidentally spend half an hour scrolling through all this stuff that you may make you more anxious kind of doing that. So you could do that to try to limit your exposure to social media. That's quite, it has its own agenda, right? So then the second thing I would say is to try to eat as healthy as possible, okay? Like as healthy as you can. So right now it's, pretty easy to get fresh fruits and vegetables, and I would go down to the supermarket, get that stuff, make a nice big soup. Now you could use some of it to eat now and freeze some up for later. Soup is really cheap to make. It's very highly nutritious. You can put in all different kinds of vegetables. You can make a few different sorts. Another thing you could make is bone broth. Go down to an organic butcher or order the meat from an organic butcher and make some bone broth. And I've got a video on this channel how to make bone broth. You can do that. There's other people making probably slightly shorter videos how to make bone broth. But that's something you could do. It's very healthy and nutritious. So if you are sick with any kind of cold or flu, bone broth and soups are something that's very easy to digest and something you would probably find, helpful if you were to get sick. So have some in the freezer ready to go. If you're a person that lives alone, or you're the main caregiver for other people, it's good to have some stuff, some food like this prepared in case. Imagine if all of you were sick at the same time and it was difficult to make the food for yourself. So these things can help you feel a better sense of security, because hey, if I was to get sick, I wouldn't be thinking, oh, where's my next meal going to come from? How am I going to get nutritious food into me because I'm too sick to make it, or go, I'm not allowed to go to the shops, or, have to wait for things to be delivered online or things like that. So this can kind of just allay your fears a little bit, but it also isn't like you don't need to hoard up weeks and weeks worth of food. You can just have like the maximum amount I would prepare would be like 2 weeks worth of food. Like have that in your in your pantry or something like that. Foods that are easy to store are things that are like, okay, I've seen lots of people buying rice and flour. I don't know if enough that people know how to cook with flour anymore. What are they going to do with this flour? Are they going to buy a bread maker and make bread? I don't know, but flour seems to have sold out at most of our shops. And at the moment, people just don't buy flour before this, but now flour's kind of sold out. So having some eggs is good because that's nice, easy to eat, and protein, high protein foods. And having stuff that, like beans, you can have, vegetables in cans is helpful as well, but you don't need to have too much of that stuff. Try to stick to fresh stuff and just make the fresh stuff and freeze it. I think that would be much more healthier than having lots and lots and lots of canned food, because canned food often has preservatives and salts kind of added into it to keep it in the can, right? So that's one thing. And just having enough vitamins. So if you don't have vitamin C already, vitamin C is a good healthy vitamin to have. Vitamin B, and so if your daily requirement of vitamins is, you're finding it hard to get that from foods, then having those kind of, or just a general multivitamin is a good idea to have that on hand. So eating as healthy as possible. So I guess, Yeah, so eating as healthy as possible for you is going to be one of the things you can do for yourself and for your family and your friends and people around you. So that's something you should be thinking about right now, wherever you are, that you want to try to maintain your health. Now, if you've got a pre-existing health condition and you know your doctor said to you something like, hey, you should lose some weight, or you should do meditation or do something to lower your stress levels and those kinds of things. Whatever you've got to do for that pre-existing health condition is going to help your general health and be more prepared should you be exposed to the coronavirus, the COVID-19 virus. The way Chinese medicine sees things in general is that we want to make our body as healthy as it possibly can so that it's able to function as best as it can when it comes into contact with the world. So how do we get illness? We get illness because it's a fight between our body and the environment. And whoever's the strongest kind of wins. And so sometimes our body's stronger than the environment, and sometimes the environment's stronger than our body. And that's just as simple as it gets. Now, this virus isn't an environmental only virus. It's a human-made thing. We don't know exactly. That's part of the worrisome aspects of it. We don't know exactly where it came from. Exactly. We don't know exactly. We don't know the patient zero. We don't know, how it was, what it is. So we can do the best we can with the knowledge that we've got. So I hope that this has been helpful to you to kind of just allay some of the fears and to help you know what you can do. So from a personal perspective, you want to be as healthy as you can. If you're seeing a practitioner already, like you're seeing a Chinese herbalist or a naturopath or someone else that's giving you medication or herbs or something to take, then just take those herbs and talk to your practitioner and say, hey, what could I do to be the most healthy I could be for my family should that situation come, should you be faced with that situation. The second thing that you can do is to wash your hands as frequently as possible. So after every contact that you have with the outside world, when you're in the outside world, let's say outside of your house, and when you're out and about and you're touching surfaces and you're going to places, just be aware that if you touch a surface that's had droplets, that let's say infected droplets, so a person might have fluid that comes out of their mouth like spit or snot or something like that, it comes onto the surface and then you touch that surface and then you touch your face, that would be the most obvious kind of thing. So you've probably seen these memes and videos going around where people said, hey, we need to stop touching our face, and in the same time they're touching their face. It's very hard for people to not touch their face. It's just, that's if you can practice that kind of thing, then that's just generally a good practice to get less sick, because the orifices that you have, our skin is a great barrier to the environment, right? Now, there has to be a cut on the skin or an opening for something to get into us. So how does it get in? It can get in through our mouth, through our nose, through our eyes. These are the kind of things where you're exposed to that more. Now, if you're wearing gloves, for instance, when you go out and about, it's very important that you don't touch the surfaces and things with your gloves and then touch your face with those gloves. There's no point in wearing the gloves if that's what you're doing. So maybe wearing the gloves helps to remind people, hey, don't touch my face, but just be very mindful that wearing gloves by itself doesn't protect you. Wearing a mask on your face doesn't protect you. You can get into through any orifice that's open, any place that's open, and you can do that more if you touch. Like, so if you rub your eyes or something like that. So just avoiding doing that when you're out and about, like say for instance you're going to the shop or you're going on public transport or something like that. The next thing to do is to wash your hands. So as soon as you come back into your house, wash your hands, right? Wherever you are, wash your hands as frequently as possible. Before you eat your food, wash your hands or use hand hygiene, which means to use hand sanitizer. And not just washing your hands for a second, but there's a lot of videos I've seen now with little songs people can do, just like when they teach you CPR, you have a little song, right? Staying alive, ha 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 ha. Pumping along to Staying Alive, or Nelly the Elephant, or something like that. So those songs that you know are a minute long, and so you can do your hand hygiene, you can do those, as you're singing that song is a good idea. So you're kind of spending more time to wash your hands. So that's an important thing, right? So washing your hands and avoiding contact with your face and your orifices on your face, so your eyes, your nose, your mouth. is a good thing to do. So you can do that, and that can help reduce your risk and contamination. And if it comes time to that, then this is where you would follow the World Health Organization guidelines to practice what they call social distancing, which means just staying a metre apart from other human beings. Look, this isn't going to be easy for people because we do need human contact. We do need the comfort of that, and some people very much need the comfort of that, and that can create its own anxiety. People just even thinking about that, even people thinking, well, what if I couldn't go out of my house? What if I had to stay at home all the time? What if I couldn't have contact with other people? Try not to take it to worst case scenario now. We don't know what things are going to be like, but these are things you can do to reduce your risk. And it's certainly if you are sick. If you are sick in any way, then you need to follow the guidelines of the World Health Organization. And if you think that you might be sick or have symptoms of coronavirus, COVID-19, then different countries have different policies on how they want you to handle that. And so those are all in conjunction with the World Health Organization. That's why I'm giving you that information, because that may change. That changes day to day as the virus changes. So because the symptoms are very similar to a cold or a flu, at the start, if people have had contact with someone who's a known case of COVID-19, or they've been in contact with a country where it's been, had an outbreak there, so that would have been China or Iran, and now Italy, and now that's expanded to lots of other countries as well. So that is changing every day, and that's why now the World Health Organization has declared what they call a pandemic. So please don't panic, be concerned, be vigilant, but don't panic. And to try to maintain, that, like the other thing is, the more stressed you are, the worse your immune system functions. So let's not get stressed. Do what we can, okay? So keep your body as healthy as you possibly can. And there are cases where people get so panicked in a situation where they think they're going to be sick that your body can start displaying the symptoms, even though you're not even sick. You can start to manufacture those symptoms. Our mind, and the reason why I'm telling you this is because our mind is a very, very powerful tool. So you can use it as a powerful tool for good, or it can be a powerful tool kind of against you in a way. So we want to try to maintain that positivity as much as you possibly can. So what are the things you can do to be positive? Well, I'd like to know what the things you do to be positive are, and you can put those in the comments below. I'd love to know the things you do to be positive. I'm going to share some of my tips and tricks. I'm a person that's very busy. I come in contact with lots of stressful people all the time, patients who are worried about things, not just this virus, but, I've been practicing Chinese medicine for nearly 20 years. Students that are stressed about exams and studying and just all kinds of stuff, let alone your own family and your own dramas and the own things that happen in life. So what are some things you can do? Well, firstly, you want to know what is positive. I would firstly start by removing the negative stuff. So that's why I talked about social media. Like, don't look at that first thing in the morning. Don't wake up and scroll through Facebook first thing. Now, I'm talking to myself as well, because it's just something that we naturally do. We think, I want to find out what's happened in the world while I've been asleep. And that's our new news. That's our new go-to place. And sometimes there's no filter on that. It's just all kinds of information. It can be worrisome, it can be stressful for you. So maybe look at it at another time in the day, not first thing in the morning. Read your positive affirmations, right? I love Tony Robbins. He's written a couple of books that have been very, very, very helpful for me when I was younger, just to frame your mindset. And one of the things he says to do is to put all the positive words on a piece of paper. And I used to have that in a clear plastic sleeve and have that in my shower. And so when I was showering, I would read those positive words like powerful, wonderful, over the top, and just reading those words, and like things like that would help, can be very helpful when you're just around negativity. Refuse to, challenge that negative mindset if that's coming into your brain as well. Listening to positive podcasts, finding something that you're interested in that's not about the virus is a good thing to be focused on. So other things that you love. It might be music, it might be art, it might be, a hobby, gardening, something like that. So, find some positive stuff about those things. I have a positive playlist that I listen to. Like, I have a playlist that, like, a pump up. Most people have a gym playlist. Those kinds of things, the positive tunes. I'll put the link to my positive playlist in the description below, so you can have a look at that, and hopefully that might help you in some way. Guided meditation, mindfulness practices. Mindfulness can be very powerful in this situation, because you can disrupt the pattern of thinking where you just in a rut, and then you stop, you do a little mindfulness practice that brings you back into the present moment. It can actually lower your heart rate, lower your blood pressure, and stop you from being so panicked or so in a frenzy. I went to the supermarket a couple of weeks ago, the day the toilet rolls were running out, and I think part of it was because you see it on social media and I was thinking, oh, this is too good to believe. Like, this is too crazy. Is this just 1 or 2 stores, or what's going on there? So I'd finished work. I'd seen lots and lots of patients that day, and I finished work about 6:30, 7, I think. And I got home and it was like 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock. And I was like tired. And I was like, normally I'd just, have my dinner and go to bed or something like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the shop and see what this is about, because, and so I went there and I was like, whoa, there wasn't even a roll to be seen. There was still like hand towels there, like the bigger hand towels. Now those are mostly sold out now too. And I was like, I didn't even buy them because I thought, I'm not wiping my butt with hand towels. They're very thick, and I just think that's a bit wasteful. But anyway, so what happened is, like, you can feel the frenzy in the store. Like, other people are stocking up and other people are buying things and stuff like that. Even a friend of mine told me that their husband was in a store in a richer suburb, and the person's trolley broke apart because it was so full of cans. You've got to have a trolley really full of cans, like canned food, to break a metal trolley, for a trolley to the bottom. The trolley broke apart at the checkout because it was too full. Like, that's just mental. And if you're around that kind of thing at that time, like, I remember being in the store that Tuesday night, and I was like, whoa, stocking up. And I could see how the frenzy grabs you, because, and I was like driving past places thinking, oh, maybe I need some of that, which is something I'd never use, because I was like, well, what if you can't get it again? Let's not get like that. Just buy what you need, and be prepared to be in your house for a couple of weeks if you need to, and have enough food there, like I said, and have healthy food, and buy fresh fruit and veggies, and make things frozen if you've got room in your freezer, or make some room in your freezer for that stuff. And do some soups and things like that. They can last in your fridge for a couple of days as well, and that way you can be as healthy as you possibly can be, with plenty of vegetables, not just like living on canned foods and preservative things. So what can we do to fill up your life with positivity? I'd love to know in the comments what you do to help you be positive in tough times. Reading positive books, reading affirmations. And if you're a spiritual person, it might be praying, it might be connecting with the person that you, the entity or the person that you believe in. If you believe in God, praying and connecting with a spiritual or a higher power or a belief. That's a very powerful thing to be able to do, and that can also take your mind off of the stress and the situations that you're faced in, and it can also take your perspective to a higher level rather than it being just all about yourself. Now, I enjoy doing volunteer work, I enjoy helping other people, because it helps me get the stress off of me, right? And so this might be a time that's a bit difficult to do that kind of stuff if things get worse and people are in a quarantine situation, but there are other things you can do to help other people. So maybe having a bit of a focus other than yourself is going to be really beneficial to you. So think, what could I do to help somebody else? What could I do to help my neighbour? What could I do to help my family or my friends? Reaching out to people, and just even being an emotional support or listening to them on the telephone while they talk to you about the problems can be really beneficial for society. And so sometimes these kinds of things can be beneficial because they bring us together as humanity, and we can come together on the things that, are common to our human survival, and and forget about the things. Hopefully, these kinds of things can bring the worst out, and they can also bring the best out in people. So I really hope you're doing well. I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope that this is stuff that's useful for you. So for the latest information on the COVID-19, on the outbreak, and what's happening, and what the government in your area's response to it is, please see the World Health Organization website, who.int, and that will get daily updates and you can get the right information in a less fear-mongered way. And secondly, stay positive, share. And I'll be doing some updates about things about Chinese medicine that you can do. I'll just bring to your attention a video I did a while back last year about cold and flus. There's things that are just remedies for easing sore throats and helping cold and flu symptoms. So that's good. If you find yourself in need of that, you can go and have a look at those kinds of things. And and strengthening your body's function as best you can. If you don't have a practitioner, then go and find a practitioner so you can get an individualized approach for your own health situation, and they'll be able to give you the herbs that are kind of right for you. And if you are experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and you're waiting for test results or you have been diagnosed with it, don't go and rock up at a practitioner's clinic. You can call them first and see if they'll be able to give you some herbs over the phone, not pass the herbs through the phone line, but they might be able to give you a telehealth consultation or a consultation over the phone and be able to prescribe something to you. So particularly, like for instance with my patients, if I've seen them before and I've checked their pulse and I kind of know what their base pulse is or something like that, and things change, like sometimes we can give herbs, we can have a general idea of what you would need without needing to check your pulse. And that'd be better than nothing at all, right? Ultimately, you want to check the patient's pulse and give them the stuff. But for this kind of stuff, it is pretty, like we can prescribe we can work out what's going on based on the patient's symptoms quite well. And so we can kind of give patients herbs like that. And there's lots and lots of practitioners that would kind of be able to do that for you. All over the world. So that's the benefit of Chinese medicine. It's got a long history, like I said at the start, like colds and flus is nothing new for Chinese medicine. Obviously this virus is a new one. We don't know what it is. We don't know where it came from. We don't know exactly, we don't know exactly the details about what it's going to do to people long term. We only know what we know. Like Biggie says, if you don't know, now you know. So you do know what you know now, but we don't know what it's going to do to people, in a year's time, in 2 years' time. So if we can avoid getting in contact with it, that's great. But if you do get in contact with it, and then these are the things that you want to be able to do to kind of keep your health up. And if there's no cure, there's no treatment, and these treatments are only symptomatic, you're relying on making your body as healthy as it can so that it's got the best chance to fight the virus. And that's how Chinese medicine works. We don't give herbs symptomatically to alleviate symptoms, let's say. We give herbs to make your body stronger, to make your body function as best as it can. And that's the true nature of Chinese herbal medicine. And that's what I do in my practice. And so I hope this has been useful and helpful to you. And thank you so much for listening. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next video. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you're doing, especially if you've got something positive. I'm sure it will help other people in our community to know what are the things you do to stay positive in this kind of environment and in tough times. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for listening to the Chinese Medicine Podcast. Did you know we're also on TikTok? And you can find shorter videos on Facebook and Instagram that you might like to share with your friends and family. You can also find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and all places where you listen to audio podcasts. I look forward to seeing you again on the next video soon.